The night was cold, the kind of cold that made even strong aliens hurry through the streets, keeping their cloaks tight around their bodies. In front of the alien clinic, a small crowd had gathered, whispering, their glowing eyes watching something on the steps. The clinic doors had just opened, and 2 alien doctors stepped out, carrying a stretcher. On the stretcher lay a girl, fragile, her skin pale and trembling as if every breath cost her too much strength. She is hopeless, one doctor said, his voice sharp and cold. Her body rejects treatment. We cannot waste resources on one like her. The other nodded, and without care they tipped the stretcher forward, letting the girl roll onto the cold metal ground outside. She hit the floor with a soft cry, too weak even to scream. The doors of the clinic closed again with a heavy sound, shutting her out as if she was nothing. The aliens in the crowd looked at each other, but no one stepped forward. Some muttered about rules, others about bad luck. One older alien shook his head and whispered, better not touch her if the doctors gave up. There is no hope. The girl coughed, curling her small body as frost began to form around her. Her hands shook, trying to pull the thin cloth tighter around herself. But it was useless, she was fading, and everyone knew it. From the corner of the street, a human walked by. His name was Daniel, a simple janitor who worked nearby. He carried a bag of cleaning tools, his uniform stained with the day's labor. He was tired, his feet sore, but when his eyes fell on the girl lying on the ground, he stopped. He had seen suffering before. He had seen the way alien society treated the weak. But something about this girl struck him hard. Maybe it was the way her eyes, half closed, still fought to stay open. Maybe it was the way no one, not even her own kind, dared to help. He dropped his bag, kneeling down beside her. Hey, he whispered, can you hear me? Her lips moved, but no sound came, only a shiver. Only the faint fog of her breath. A tall alien from the crowd stepped closer, frowning at Daniel. Leave her, the alien warned. The doctors already said she is finished. Do not bring trouble on yourself. But Daniel didn't move away. He pulled off his own jacket, rough and old, and wrapped it around the girl's shaking body. She's freezing, he said, his voice steady. She's still breathing. I can't just leave her here, the alien scoffed, backing away. Humans, always wasting effort. You do not understand. She is broken. Nothing can fix her. Daniel ignored him. His mind raced. He had no money to take her back into the clinic, and even if he did, they had already turned her away. He couldn't carry her to a hospital. Alien laws made it nearly impossible for humans to demand treatment for others. But he could not walk away either. His heart screamed against it. Every part of him told him that leaving her here would mean death, and that thought made his hands clench tighter around her small form. The girl's breathing was shallow, her chest barely moved, and Daniel felt panic rise inside him. He remembered when he was a boy on Earth. He had seen a dog hit by a car. His mother had rushed the animal not to a doctor but to a vet, and the vet had done everything to save it. Vets were different. They tried things others didn't. They cared even when the world said no. That memory hit him like lightning. He knew what he had to do, but first, he had to get her out of here. Daniel looked at the silent crowd, their eyes glowing faintly in the dark. If none of you will help, fine, he said firmly. I will. He slid his arms under the girl, lifting her carefully. She was lighter than she should have been. Like a bird with hollow bones, her head rested weakly against his shoulder. Some in the crowd whispered, calling him foolish. Others turned away, ashamed. No one stopped him, step by step. Daniel carried her into the night, his jacket wrapped tight around her. Her faint heartbeat pressed against his chest, so fragile it felt like it might vanish any moment. The street stretched ahead, quiet and cold. He didn't know if his idea would work. He didn't even know if she would survive the walk. But he knew one thing with certainty. He would not let her die alone on those clinic steps. Abandoned like trash as he walked, the girl stirred faintly, her lips moving again. This time a single word escaped, so soft he almost didn't hear it. Why? Daniel's eyes stung. He looked down at her and whispered back, because someone has to care, and with that, he pushed forward into the darkness, carrying hope where none was supposed to exist. Daniel walked fast through the dark streets, his arms tight around the fragile alien girl. Every step felt heavy, not because of her weight, but because of the fear that at any moment she might stop breathing. Her body was cold against his chest. Her skin clammy like ice, her faint heartbeat was uneven, and each shallow breath she took felt like it might be her last. He looked around, searching for help, but the streets were empty. The clinic lights glowed behind him. Far away now. Their doors were closed, their healers gone back to comfort and warmth, leaving a girl to die. Think, Daniel, think, he muttered to himself. His mind rushed through possibilities. Hospitals were impossible. Alien doctors would not open their doors for her again. He had no medical knowledge, no money, no connections. But then, like a spark, he remembered something strange. Something human when he was young on Earth. His mother had once rescued a sick street cat. No doctor helped, but a vet did. Vets treated not just cats and dogs, but all kinds of creatures. They didn't give up easily, they tried everything. Even when it seemed hopeless, his heart raced. His best friend back on Earth had been a veterinary student. He remembered the long talks, the creative solutions vets used, and suddenly he thought of the one human place in this alien city where such thinking might still exist. There was an old human veterinarian named Dr. Harris. He had set up a small animal clinic in the lower sector, treating pets for other humans who lived there. To the alien majority, he was nothing. But Daniel had heard stories that Harris had saved creatures others thought impossible. Daniel tightened his grip on the girl. "Hold on," he whispered to her. "Just hold on a little longer. I know someone who might help." The girl stirred faintly, her eyelids half opening, her lips trembled. "No, no one helps," she whispered, her voice broken like glass. Daniel shook his head. "That's not true, not tonight. Not while I'm here." He hurried faster, turning corners, his boots splashing through puddles. The city around him was silent except for distant hums of alien machines. Neon lights flickered above. Painting his path in green and blue, finally, he reached a small sign almost hidden under wires and rusted panels. The letters were faded but still readable to human eyes. Harris Veterinary Clinic. He pushed the door with his shoulder, and a bell rang softly inside. The warm smell of antiseptic and old wood filled his nose. An older man looked up from behind a counter. His beard was gray, his glasses slipping down his nose. He wore a simple white coat stained with ink and dust. He was human. "Dr. Harris, Daniel." Harris blinked, surprised. "What on earth are you?" His eyes dropped to the girl in Daniel's arms. His words froze. That's not a dog or cat?" "No," Daniel said quickly, his voice desperate. "She's an alien. The clinic threw her out to die. I didn't know where else to go. Please, Harris, I need your help. She's dying." Dr. Harris frowned deeply. Adjusting his glasses, he looked at the girl, her thin body shaking under Daniel's old jacket. He could see the shallow rise and fall of her chest. "Daniel, I'm a vet, not an alien doctor," he said carefully. "I don't even know her biology. This could kill her faster if I make a mistake." Daniel's voice cracked. "She will die anyway if we do nothing, please, Harris. You always told us back on Earth, life is life. No matter the form, you said vets try when others give up. Well, I'm asking you to try, just try." The room fell quiet, only the faint sound of the girl's broken breathing filling the air. Harris rubbed his forehead, muttering, "This is madness. Complete madness." But then he sighed, a heavy sound that carried years of burden. "Put her on the table." Daniel carefully laid her on the examination table. The metal was cold and she shivered harder. He pressed his jacket tighter around her. Dr. Harris washed his hands, pulled on gloves, and began pulling out old machines and tools. "I'll have to improvise. No alien drugs, no advanced tech. Just what I know and what I can adapt." Daniel nodded quickly. "Whatever it takes." Harris bent over the girl, listening with a stethoscope, frowning at the strange rhythms of her chest. Her heart's weak, lungs struggling. She's burning up and freezing at the same time, damn it. She's fighting on two ends. He looked at Daniel. "This might not work, boy. You need to understand that." Daniel's eyes burned, his voice steady. "Then let her die knowing at least someone tried. Not abandoned like trash." For a long moment, Harris stared at him, then slowly nodded. "All right. We'll try the strange choice." He turned back to his tools, muttering, "Let's see if Earth medicine can trick alien biology." Daniel stood close, his hand on the girl's weak one. His heart pounded with fear and hope. He knew this was insane, but in that small clinic, in that one strange choice, there was finally a chance. And as Harris prepared, the alien girl opened her eyes just slightly, her voice a faint whisper. "Why, still helping?" Daniel leaned closer and whispered back, "Because giving up is not human." The machines beeped, the night deepened, and the fight for her life had only just begun. The clinic was quiet, the only sound the soft hum of old machines and the shallow, broken breaths of the alien girl on the table. Daniel stood beside her, his hands trembling, trying not to show fear. Dr. Harris leaned close, his brow furrowed. He had treated dogs with collapsed lungs, cats with poisoned blood, even exotic animals smuggled into the city, but never this. Never a living being from another star who had been rejected by her own kind. Her body's shutting down, Harris muttered. Her pulse is weak. Her lungs are drowning inside themselves. She doesn't have hours, Daniel. She has minutes. Daniel's throat tightened. Then do something. Anything. You said vets improvise, so improvise. Harris shot him a look. His voice low. Improvising on an alien could kill her. Boy, you understand that? Daniel looked down at the girl, her pale lips barely moving, her chest rising and falling like a broken rhythm. His voice was firm. If you do nothing, she dies anyway. At least give her a chance. Harris exhaled sharply, muttering under his breath. You humans and your stubborn hearts. Then he grabbed his tools. Fine, let's gamble. He started with the basics, oxygen, an old mask meant for small dogs. He strapped it gently over her face, air hissing into her lungs, her chest shuddered, then steadied slightly. Good, Harris said softly. She's taking it. Daniel leaned closer, whispering, Hang in there. You're not alone anymore, but her body trembled, a violent spasm shaking her thin frame. Alarms beeped on the old monitor Harris had rigged. Red lights flashing, she's crashing, Harris barked. Her blood's poisoned. It's fighting itself, Daniel panicked. What do we do? Harris grabbed a vial from his shelf. This is a chelating agent. We use it for animals with metal poisoning. It might filter her blood, or it might destroy her cells entirely. We don't know her biology. Daniel's hands curled into fists, his voice breaking. Try it, please, Harris. Try it. The vet hesitated only a second before sliding the needle in. The girl flinched, a soft cry escaping her lips. Daniel held her hand tighter, whispering, It's okay. You're safe. The machine beeped wildly for a few seconds, then steadied. Her breathing evened just slightly. Her trembling slowing, Harris let out a long breath. She's fighting back. Unbelievable. Minutes stretched into hours. Harris moving quickly, using IV fluids meant for dehydrated animals, adjusting oxygen flow, scanning her vitals with tools far too old for alien medicine. Each step was a risk, each choice a gamble. At one point, her heart nearly stopped. The monitor line went flat. Daniel's own heart froze in his chest. No, please, not now, he shouted. Harris slammed his hand on her chest, then again, muttering curses. He grabbed a small defibrillator, one used for large dogs. Clear, he barked, and the jolt went through her frail body. Daniel held his breath, the silence stretching unbearably. Then a faint beep returned. Slow but steady, her chest rose again. She's back, Harris whispered, sweat dripping down his face. She doesn't want to leave yet. Daniel's eyes stung with relief. He bent closer, brushing damp hair from her face. See? You're tougher than they thought, he murmured. Don't let them win, not like this. Through the haze of weakness, her eyes opened a little, glowing faintly in the dim light. She looked at him, not with fear, but with confusion. Her lips moved. Why? Daniel smiled through tears. Because life deserves a chance, no matter what shape it takes. Harris stepped back, exhausted. Daniel, I've done what I can, the rest is up to her. She's balanced on a knife edge, she could live, she could die. Nothing more I can do tonight. Daniel nodded slowly, pulling up a chair. Then I'll stay with her every second. I won't let her be alone. He sat beside her, holding her hand as the machines hummed softly. The room smelled of antiseptic and fear, but also of something else, hope. Fragile but real. Hours passed in silence. Harris dozing in his chair, Daniel never leaving her side, his eyes heavy but fixed on her chest, watching every rise and fall, counting every breath at dawn. When pale light slipped through the cracked blinds, the girl stirred again. Her lips moved, her voice like the faintest whisper. Name. What's your name? Daniel leaned close, his voice gentle. Daniel. She blinked slowly, as if memorizing it. Then her eyes closed again. Her breathing steady, Daniel whispered back. And I'm not letting you go. The night had been a war between life and death. And somehow, against all logic, she was still here, but deep down, Daniel knew this was only the beginning. For if alien doctors had thrown her away once, they would not let her survival go unnoticed. And in that fragile dawn, as machines beeped softly, the real battle was only just beginning. The morning light crept through the broken blinds of the small clinic, turning the metallic table into a faint silver glow. Daniel had not slept. His eyes were heavy, but he refused to close them. All night he had listened to the shallow rise and fall of the alien girl's chest, fearing that if he blinked too long, she might slip away. Dr. Harris rubbed his tired face, sipping bitter coffee. "I still don't know how she made it through the night," he muttered, shaking his head. "By all logic, she should be gone, but somehow, she's holding on." Daniel looked at her, lying weakly on the table, his jacket still wrapped around her fragile body. Her skin no longer had the gray tint from before. Though her breathing was faint, "She's not gone," Daniel whispered. "She's fighting." For the first time in hours, her fingers twitched, curling slightly against the blanket Harris had placed. Daniel leaned forward instantly, his heart pounding. She moved. Harris hurried closer, checking her vitals. Her heart beat stronger. Still weak, but stronger. Amazing. Her eyelids fluttered open, glowing faintly. Her gaze shifted slowly until it rested on Daniel. For a long moment, she just stared as if confused by his presence. "You're awake," Daniel said softly, relief flooding his voice. "You made it." Her lips trembled, words barely escaping. "Why?" "Still here?" Daniel smiled faintly, though his eyes burned from exhaustion. "Because you're not trash, you're not hopeless, I couldn't leave you." Her eyes filled with confusion, almost disbelief. They said I was broken, not worth saving." Daniel shook his head firmly. "They were wrong. On Earth, we don't throw life away like garbage. Even broken things deserve a chance." A single tear rolled from the corner of her glowing eye. She had expected abandonment, not kindness, not warmth. Harris sighed from the corner. "Careful, boy. Don't give her false promises. She's still very fragile." But even his tone had softened. Less skeptical than before, the girl's voice cracked. "Name?" "Daniel," he answered instantly, his voice steady. "What's yours?" Her lips trembled again, then a soft sound escaped. "Lyra," Daniel repeated it gently. "Lyra, you're safe now." "Lyra," her chest rose with a shuddering breath, a flicker of hope sparking in her faint smile. For a moment, the small clinic felt less like a dying place and more like a sanctuary, but peace didn't last. Outside the window, shadows moved. Strange shapes passed the glass, aliens walking by, whispering when they saw a faint glow inside. Rumors had already spread through the district, about a foolish human carrying a broken alien girl through the night, about a vet who dared to touch what doctors had thrown away. Daniel noticed his jaw tightening. "They're watching," Harris muttered. "Of course they are. Alien laws don't allow this. If they find out she survived, there will be questions, maybe worse." Daniel looked back at Lyra, her weak form trembling under the blanket. "Then we keep her alive long enough that they can't ignore her anymore." Lyra's faint laugh turned into a cough. "Humans? Strange, foolish, kind." Her eyes closed again, but this time not in weakness but in rest. A fragile peace she had never known. Hours passed and her strength grew slightly. She could sip water slowly, whisper broken words, and even hold Daniel's hand for a few seconds at a time. Each moment was a miracle. Each smile a victory, but with every hour, Daniel felt the pressure building. The world outside didn't want her alive. The same doctors who had abandoned her would not accept being proven wrong. As evening came, Harris sat down heavily. "Daniel, listen to me. If she lives, the aliens won't forgive us. They'll say we interfered with their laws. They'll take her back. Maybe worse." Daniel's hands clenched. "Then I won't let them take her." Harris frowned. "Boy, you can't fight their system. You're just a janitor. I'm just an old vet. They'll crush us like ants." Daniel's voice was calm but sharp. "Maybe. But last night, when everyone turned away, I didn't." "That has to mean something," Lyra stirred, opening her eyes again, catching his words. Her voice was fragile but firm. "You risked everything. For me, why?" Daniel leaned closer, his voice steady as steel. "Because giving up isn't human, and because you deserve to live." "Lyra," her eyes widened, glowing softly, as if she had never heard words like that before. In that moment, something shifted, not just in the girl, but in Daniel himself. He wasn't just carrying a stranger anymore. He was carrying proof that humanity's stubborn compassion could challenge the cold laws of an entire empire. And though the night outside thickened with whispers and watching eyes, inside the clinic a flicker of hope burned brighter than fear. The galaxy might not care for one broken life, but Daniel did. And sometimes, one human's defiance was enough to change everything. The news spread like fire in dry grass by the next day. Whispers had reached every corner of the district. Some said a human carried a dying alien girl through the cold streets. Others claimed an old vet brought her back from death with strange earth medicine. Some laughed, calling it a human fairy tale. Others frowned in anger, saying humans had broken sacred law. Inside the small clinic, Lyra lay resting. Her weak breath steady. Her skin had a faint glow now, not the pale deathly gray from before. She could sip warm broth slowly, her voice still fragile but clearer than yesterday. Daniel sat beside her as always, refusing to leave. He had not gone back to his job. He had not eaten much. He stayed because every time her chest rose and fell, it felt like a victory. Harris walked in. Holding a folded paper, his face was tense. "It's in the city bulletin," he said. Dropping the paper on the table, the headline glowed in alien script. But Daniel could read the translation on the smaller line. "Human interferes with medical law. Alien girl still alive." Daniel clenched his fists. "They already know?" Harris nodded grimly. "And they don't like it. I told you this would happen, boy. The Alien Council doesn't forgive being proven wrong. They said she was hopeless, now she's breathing again because of us. That makes them look weak." Lyra stirred at the voices. Opening her eyes, she tried to sit up, but her body trembled. Daniel quickly supported her. "Easy. You're not strong yet." Her lips parted, her voice barely a whisper. They are angry?" "Yes," Harris muttered. "Angry and afraid that humans, weak, small humans, dared to succeed where their best doctors failed." Daniel looked at her gently. "Don't worry about them, you just focus on healing." But outside the walls, voices were growing louder. Some aliens passed the clinic, spitting insults at the door. "Foolish human, playing with things he doesn't understand." Others came not with hate but with silent shame, leaving small offerings of food or cloth at the steps. A few even whispered, "Thank you," when no one was watching. The story divided the city. Half whispered that the human was reckless, breaking rules. The other half whispered something more dangerous: hope. If humans could save one life, maybe the laws were wrong all along. Daniel noticed strangers outside at night, shadowy figures watching, their glowing eyes following every move he made. He didn't flinch. He stayed beside Lyra, holding her hand when she trembled, feeding her water when she coughed. One evening, a group of alien merchants entered the clinic, their robes bright, their expressions cold. They stared at Lyra, then at Daniel. One spoke with a sharp tone. "You should have let her die, human. She was defective." "That is our way," Daniel stood, his eyes burning. "Maybe that's your way, but it's not ours," the alien sneered. "You risk the peace between our people, all for one broken girl." Daniel didn't back down. His voice was calm but unshakable. "If peace means letting children die on the street, then maybe peace isn't worth it." The room fell silent. Even Harris looked stunned. The merchants glared, muttered curses, and stormed out. Lyra had heard everything. Her eyes glistened as she whispered, Why fight for me?" Daniel knelt beside her, his voice soft but firm. "Because you deserve to live. Not because of what you can do, but because you're alive. That's enough for humans." Tears slipped down her cheeks. She had been told her whole life that her worth was measured only by perfection. Yet here was someone telling her she mattered simply for existing. That night, Harris locked the clinic doors tighter. "They'll come for her soon, Daniel, mark my words," he warned. "And when they do, they won't care what she wants. They'll just take her, maybe erase the problem quietly." Daniel's jaw tightened. "Then they'll have to go through me first." Harris shook his head. "You're one man, they're an empire." Daniel looked at Lyra, her small, fragile smile, the faint glow of her eyes. His voice was low but filled with fire. "Sometimes one man is enough." The days that followed were tense. Crowds gathered near the clinic, some to protest, some to silently pray for the girl. Soldiers passed by more often, their weapons gleaming in the neon night. Yet through it all, Daniel never left her side. And each time Lyra woke, each time she whispered his name, each time she smiled faintly, the whispers outside grew stronger, spreading from street to street, sector to sector. The Alien Council had tried to silence one life, but now that life had become a question the whole city could not ignore. And in the center of it all stood one stubborn human, his hand holding the fragile fingers of a girl who was never meant to survive. The galaxy had many laws, many rules, but sometimes all it took was one act of defiance to start a storm. The clinic had become a fortress, not with walls or weapons, But with whispers and watching eyes, every day more aliens gathered outside. Some came to curse, some came to stare, and some came only to see the impossible girl who lived when she was meant to die. Daniel barely left her side. He had not returned to work. He had no credits left in his pocket, but none of it mattered. All that mattered was Lyra. Her strength was growing, her breath steadier, her voice clearer. Sometimes she even sat up, her thin fingers wrapped around a cup of water. But with every breath she took, the danger grew. The Alien Council could not ignore the rumors any longer. It began with an official letter sealed in black and gold. Harris opened it with trembling hands. His face paled as he read aloud. By order of the Medical Council, the defective subject identified as Lyra is to be transferred immediately into official custody. Interference is punishable by exile or execution. Daniel clenched his fists, his jaw tight. They want to take her back to finish what they started. Harris slammed the letter down. I told you, boy, I told you this would happen. You've put us both in danger, and worse, you've put her right back in their hands. Lyra was awake, her glowing eyes wide with fear. No, she whispered, shaking her head. I won't go back. They'll kill me quietly this time. Daniel knelt beside her, his voice steady. Then we won't let them take you. Harris looked at him sharply. You're talking like you can stop an empire. Daniel's eyes burned with fire. I can stop them from taking her tonight. And tomorrow and the next day, as long as she breathes. I'll stand in the way. That evening, armored soldiers arrived. Their metallic boots clanged against the stone street as the crowd scattered. The soldiers' faces were hidden behind sharp masks, their weapons humming with silent threat. They knocked on the clinic door with thunderous force. Open by order of the council, a voice commanded. Daniel stood in front of the door, his body tense. Harris hissed, Are you insane? They'll kill you, but Daniel didn't move. He shouted through the door. This is a human-run clinic. You have no right to drag her out like garbage again. There was a pause, then cold laughter. You think your laws matter here? You think your kind can stand against ours? Daniel's heart pounded, but his voice was steady. I think one life matters, and if you want her, you'll have to step over me. The soldiers forced the door open, storming inside. Harris shouted in panic. But Daniel planted his feet, his eyes locked with theirs. Stay behind me, he told Lyra firmly. She sat trembling on the table, her hands clutched to her chest. The leader of the soldiers stepped forward. Move, human. Daniel shook his head. No, for a tense moment. The room was silent except for the hum of alien weapons. Then something unexpected happened. From outside came voices, alien voices. Not soldiers, but civilians. Leave them. One shouted, She deserves to live. She is proof. Another cried. Proof that your council is wrong. The soldiers froze, glancing back. The crowd outside had not scattered after all. They had grown, dozens of aliens filling the street, their glowing eyes fixed on the soldiers, not with fear this time, but with defiance. Daniel saw it, his chest tightening. He raised his voice so all could hear. She was dying on your clinic steps. You left her to freeze. We didn't. We fought for her. And now she's alive because compassion works where cruelty fails. A murmur rose in the crowd, stronger and stronger, until the street echoed with voices. Let her live. Let her live. The soldiers shifted uncomfortably. Their orders had been simple. Remove the problem quietly. But now the problem was not quiet, it was loud, it was public. The leader glared at Daniel, his weapon still humming. But after a long moment, he lowered it. His voice was sharp with threat. This isn't over, human. The council will not forgive you. They marched out. The crowd parting but not silent, the chants continued, echoing long after the soldiers vanished into the night. Inside, Harris slumped into a chair, sweat dripping down his forehead. Boy, you're either the bravest or the most foolish human I've ever seen. Daniel exhaled slowly. Turning back to Lyra, she looked at him with wide eyes, trembling but alive. Her voice cracked as she whispered, You stood against them. For me. He nodded, his voice quiet but strong. I told you, Lyra, giving up isn't human. Her hand reached out, weak but determined, wrapping around his fingers. In her eyes burned something new, not just survival but trust. That night, as the city whispered and the council fumed in their high towers, one truth became clear. This wasn't just about one alien girl anymore. It was about something bigger, something dangerous to those in power. Because one human had shown the galaxy that mercy could defy law, and mercy, once seen, could not be forgotten. The city was restless. The story of the human and the broken alien girl spread beyond the streets. Beyond the district, it reached the high towers where the alien council sat. And it reached the markets where workers whispered during trade. Everywhere the same words were spoken. The human saved her. Lyra was no longer just a weak girl. She had become a question no one could silence. Why had alien doctors given up? Why had a human, a janitor, not a healer, succeeded where their own best had failed? The council's anger grew. They sent warnings, threats, even spies. But every attempt to seize her was stopped not by force, but by eyes, hundreds of eyes watching, aliens and humans together. Their presence outside the clinic each night was a shield no weapon could break. Inside, Daniel cared for Lyra as she grew stronger. She could stand now, leaning on him. Her voice was no longer only whispers. Sometimes she even laughed, though it was soft and unsure, as if laughter was something she had never practiced before. One evening, she sat wrapped in a blanket while Daniel read old human stories to her. She listened with wide eyes, her glowing gaze filled with wonder. "You fight for everything," she murmured. "Even when the world tells you to stop," Daniel smiled faintly. "That's what it means to be human. We don't stop just because it's hard. Or hopeless." Her hand touched his, trembling but warm. "You gave me life. Not because I was useful, not because I was perfect, but because I was alive." Daniel's throat tightened. "That's enough reason." The door burst open suddenly. Harris rushed in, his face pale. "The council has called a gathering. Everyone is talking about you, Daniel. They can't ignore this anymore." "What does that mean?" Daniel asked. "It means they'll try to make an example of you," Harris said gravely. "But it also means you have a chance if you speak, if you show her to them. Maybe the crowd will see what the council fears." Daniel looked at Lyra. She was trembling, her eyes filled with fear. "They'll hate me," she whispered. "No," Daniel said gently. "They'll see you. Really see you. And once they do, they can't unsee it." The next day, the great hall of the council was filled, towering pillars glowing with alien light. The council sat above, their robes heavy with power. Below them stood Daniel, Harris, and Lyra. The crowd pressed in on all sides, aliens. Humans, workers, merchants, every eye fixed on them. A council elder's voice boomed, "You have broken law, human. You interfered where you had no right. You saved what was never meant to live." Daniel stepped forward, his voice steady. "You left her on the street to die. You called her worthless, you said she was broken. But look at her now, she's alive, she's standing here," the elder sneered. "Alive because you played with things you don't understand." Daniel's eyes burned, his voice rising. "Alive because I refused to believe compassion was a mistake." The crowd stirred, whispers spreading. Lyra stepped forward, leaning on Daniel's arm. Her voice was soft but clear. "You called me broken. You said I was not worth saving. But he did not listen. He gave me life. He gave me hope." Her glowing eyes swept across the hall. "If that is weakness, then maybe your strength is hollow." Gasps echoed. The crowd erupted, voices clashing. Some shouted for law, others for mercy. The hall shook with sound. The elder raised his hand for silence, his voice sharp. "You dare defy us, human? You dare claim your way is better than ours?" Daniel's voice rang out strong and unshaken. "Not better, just human. We may not be strong like you, we may not be many, but we do not give up on life. That is our answer. That is what makes us dangerous." For a moment, silence filled the hall. Then, slowly, voices from the crowd rose, first one, then another, until the chant filled the great chamber. "Let her live. Let her live." The council's power cracked under the weight of the voices. They could not drag her away now, not without tearing their city apart. The elder's face twisted with fury, but he could not speak. He slammed his staff down, ending the gathering. That night, Daniel walked Lyra back through the streets. The crowd parted for them, not with silence, but with respect. Some bowed their heads, some touched their hearts. Lyra leaned on Daniel, her eyes wet with tears. "They see me now," she whispered. "Not as broken, but as alive." Daniel smiled, his voice gentle but firm. "That's humanity's answer, Lyra. We don't measure life by perfection. We fight for it because it's life, and that's enough." As they entered the clinic, Harris muttered, half in disbelief, half in admiration. "One human, one vet, one broken girl. And now the whole city shakes." Daniel placed Lyra gently on her bed, looking at her with quiet determination. "This is only the beginning," he said, "because now they all know humans don't give up. Not on anyone. And somewhere in the galaxy, in the halls of power where alien rulers whispered, a single truth began to spread. A truth more dangerous than any weapon. Humans were not feared because of their strength, but because of their heart, and that heart had just shaken an empire